SEAL forces ridiculed her tattoo until the general unexpectedly revealed his own amazing ink. Jessica stood in front of the mirror, her fingers tracing the bold letters of the quote inked on her forearm, "You are more than enough." It was a mantra she repeated to herself daily, trying to drown out the echoes of her father's legacy. He was a Navy SEAL legend, and everyone in their small coastal town revered him. She had idolized him as a child, but now, as she stared at the vibrant tattoo, those idolizing eyes turned to judgment from his friends. To them, it was a mark of rebellion, a lapse into sullied individuality instead of an homage to her mother's memory. They might not see it, but to her it was both armor and a declaration of freedom. The precinct buzzed with anticipation as the SEALs prepared for a demonstration that could bolster her ambitions in law enforcement. Yet doubts tightened their grip around her as she entered. She was often judged, the youngest, trying to navigate a domain where traditional values combined with rigid expectations to form a suffocating atmosphere. "You think you can keep up with real soldiers?" one of the instructors had scoffed earlier, and every smirk echoed in her mind like a taunt. Anxiety swarmed her, a tightness wrapping around her chest. Was she really enough? As the hours passed, excitement and dread entwined within her. She rehearsed movements in her mind, ideal scenarios that fizzled beneath the weight of her uncertainty. The looming presence of her father's SEAL comrades reminded her that while she sought to carve her niche, they saw her tattoo in unconventional style as a joke, a contradiction of the legacy she believed she needed to escape. She wished they could see her passion, the sleepless hours spent studying tactics instead of drowning in childish memories of her dad's glory days, but their laughter continued to haunt her. It was a struggle between who she wanted to be and who they expected her to be. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The demonstration began, and she could almost feel the weight of every eye on her, scrutinizing every move. When one of the SEALs shot a mocking comment about her tattoo, her heart sank. A flood of anguish washed over her, confidence ripped away, and a chaotic storm raged within her. Here she was, at a pivotal moment, battling the very doubts she tried so hard to shed.
All she wanted was to shine, but instead she felt like a shadow, blinking out in this arena meant for warriors. Then, amid her escalating despair, an unexpected moment unfolded. During a break, the stern old general revealed his tattoo, an intricate map of loss and resilience. His story, roughened like the weathered lines etched into his skin, resonated with her own. Gradually, the room quieted, eyes shifting from mockery to understanding. Would her struggles resonate? Could they see her as more than just a legacy? As their eyes locked, the tension shifted, but just as hope flickered into view, the drill's commanding officer strode into the space, reinstating an overwhelming anxiety. The weight of expectations reared its ugly head again. Her choices dangled before her, defining her fight for identity or resignation to the shadows. Would she confront this chaos or fade away, letting her father's legacy eclipse her? The pull of their past, potentially suffocating her future, hung heavy in the air as she confronted her ultimate decision. Jessica stood at the edge of the training area, her heart pounding against her ribcage like an urgent alarm. She stole a glance around the room, where the intimidating majority of the SEAL team resumed their tasks, yet the weight of their judgment loomed over her like thunderclouds before a storm. The hum of their chatter rendered her momentarily deaf to her own thoughts. The sharp retort of the drill's commanding officer cut through the charged atmosphere, commanding attention. "You think some ink will earn you respect? This is about more than flair." His words struck deeply, echoing her insecurities, igniting the nagging doubts that she could indeed measure up. But the general's revelation hung before her as a glimmer of possibility. It had cracked open a door to acceptance, even if for just a fleeting moment. Amidst the fear swirling inside her, a new clarity emerged. They couldn't define her. She refused to be just the daughter of a hero. She needed to establish her own identity, to take the challenge head on. Jessica straightened her back, allowing a flicker of resolve to fill her. This was not just about proving herself to them. It was about the promise she'd made to herself. "Focus, everyone," the officer interrupted her thoughts, reeling her attention back. The tasks were aligned for them to pair off, and her gaze caught on a male SEAL who had been smirking during the earlier exchange. No more. This time she wouldn't allow them to mock her. "You'll team up with her," the officer announced casually. Jessica's stomach tightened. She could feel the weight of his gaze, veiled in condescension. Her partner strolled over, his swagger exacerbating her anxiety. This was the same SEAL who had doubted her on more than one occasion.
Instead of dropping her eyes or caving into the shame flooding her senses, Jessica steadied her breath.
The general's tattoo lingered in her mind, and with it, the history of hardship, resilience, and strength began to surface within her. What had he said? It's who we are underneath that matters. Let's see what you've got, he challenged, a smirk still plastered on his face. Something flickered in her, igniting a fire she had suppressed for too long. This was her arena, her chance to showcase her skills, not just the echoes of past achievements. I'm ready, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. In their first exercise, she positioned herself firmly, investing everything into the movement, pouring her heart and determination into the task. As they proceeded, she began to block out his doubtful remarks. Instead, she focused intensely on the technical aspects, relishing each motion she had practiced, each maneuver that carried weight, proving to herself that she belonged here. With every successful drill, she could feel the scorn evaporating. Moans of disbelief replaced sharp laughter as she executed a crucial technique with precision. Jessica glimpsed the once derisive expressions shift towards intrigue and perhaps respect. Each moment of clarity chipped away at the perception of the tattoo, at the past that seemed to loom infinitely. In one crucial exercise, when her partner faltered, she led, perhaps for the first time, taking charge and demonstrating not just her skills, but her leadership. As their session ended, she saw the briefest nod from the officer, a silent acknowledgement of her performance. Was this the turning point she'd been yearning for? Every challenge unspoken finally voiced itself in her heart with a chant that echoed, "You belong." But as her confidence soared, she knew the true test lay ahead. The road to self-discovery was fraught with challenges, and her newfound strength would soon be put to a greater examination. The camaraderie she craved felt close, yet the remnants of doubt lingered like a distant shadow. What happens next? Jessica questioned in her mind, the thrill of her accomplishments tempered by the anticipation of greater trials. Her identity was no longer tethered solely to her father's legacy, but navigating through the complexities of self-worth would demand every ounce of resolve she possessed. The moment of truth approached unpredictably, and Jessica braced for the tests her journey would unfold. Would she truly rise beyond the ridicule, or would the unrelenting shadows of doubt pull her back once more? Suddenly, the roar of engines filled the air, and she sensed a shift in the atmosphere around them. What lay ahead could redefine her path forever. The roar of engines echoed through the training area, interrupting Jessica's thoughts and sending a cascade of adrenaline rushing through her veins. The SEAL team members began to assemble, their previous camaraderie temporarily sidelined by the impending task.
Jessica felt her heart race anew, an electric mix of anticipation and trepidation coursing through her. She had not expected this immediate transition into the unknown, and uncertainty loomed like a heavy cloud overhead. As the briefing commenced, the commanding officer's voice resonated with authority, outlining the day's rigorous challenges and the high stakes involved. Each exercise hinted at a deeper meaning: teamwork, trust, and pushing past personal limits. Jessica locked her gaze on the officer, absorbing every word and resolving to immerse herself completely in each task ahead. Yet she could feel the lingering eyes of her peers. The tension in the air spoke of the skepticism embedded in their previous interactions. "Today," he announced, "we'll be focusing on our tactical procedures in a field simulation." A murmur of excitement rippled through the group, mixed with casual banter, but Jessica kept her focus anchored on the goal, proving her worth. While the team divided into smaller groups, the smirking SEAL from earlier approached her again. She noticed his swagger still persisted, but this time a flicker of understanding began to form within her. This wasn't just a partnership, it was an opportunity. "Can you keep up?" he inquired, his tone laced with doubt. Instead of feeling diminished by his challenge, determination ignited within her, a realization surfacing. This wasn't solely about her skills, but demonstrating unyielding resilience, the kind that ran deeper than any tattoo could signify. Jessica nodded, narrowing her focus. "Let's get to work," she replied, her voice breaking like ground underneath her. As they launched into their simulation, she embraced her training instincts. Jessica was no longer just the daughter of a renowned SEAL. She was stepping into the identity she was forging for herself. Every movement mattered,
As they navigated through the simulated terrain, she challenged herself to lead with instinct and precision. Her partner's taunts faded into a distant background noise as she orchestrated their actions, carefully considering the tactical implications of their maneuvers. She could feel herself shifting from doubt to empowered participation, showcasing a new breed of leadership. "I see you're not as useless as I thought," he remarked, a hint of begrudging respect piercing through his earlier sarcasm. Jessica didn't let it distract her. Instead, she seized the moment, reflecting on how far she had come. The weight of her past still lingered, but each stride forward chipped away at the remnants of insecurity that threatened to tug her back. When the simulation concluded and the dust settled, the officer gathered everyone back for debriefing. Jessica listened intently, absorbing feedback and insights from her peers, not as a daughter, but as an individual. As the officer wrapped up, he turned to her, recognition glimmering in his eyes. "Solid performance out there, Jessica."
Leadership isn't just about commanding, it's about believing in your capacity to lead by example. The compliment felt like a spark, igniting hope within her. She was not just proving her worth, she was rewriting her narrative, bit by bit. However, just as she began to bask in the victory of acceptance, the commanding officer announced a surprise. The team would face a daunting night mission that would test their endurance and reliance on each other. The gravity of it washed over her like a sudden storm, swirling uncertainty back into the forefront. In the darkness ahead, would she once again stumble on the threshold of judgment or rise boldly, carving out a new path? The mission was more than a test of skills. It was set to be a revelation of her true self. As twilight descended, Jessica's anticipation swirled with apprehension, and the question loomed large. Could she summon her inner fortitude when the darkness threatened to engulf her once more? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the training area as Jessica prepared mentally for the night mission ahead. Each breath felt weighted, filled with the tension of impending challenge. The commanding officer's earlier announcement echoed in her mind. This was not just a test of skills, but of trust, determination, and her own evolving identity. As the teams gathered in anticipation, Jessica fell into her thoughts, grappling with the uncertainty of what awaited her in the darkness. She stood alongside her partner, the SEAL with the earlier cocky demeanor, yet his presence didn't feel so daunting now. Moments spent in the simulation had forged a fragile respect between them, something she was prepared to build upon. "Got your game face on?" he teased lightly, though the levity in his tone held a new sincerity. Instead of frustration, Jessica felt a flicker of amusement. "Always," she shot back, a smile creeping onto her lips. But beneath the playful exchange lay the reality of what was to come. Her heart pounded as the officer delineated their mission objectives, a reconnaissance role that required stealth and strategic thinking. This would demand not just her physical presence, but her honed instincts. As the team moved out, the world around them dimmed, deepening the shadows into an eerie blackness punctuated only by the occasional beam of distant lights. The early chill of the night air contrasted sharply with the heat of a mounting adrenaline. Jessica's thoughts raced, oscillating between doubt and confidence. This was a realm where skills were paramount, and failure, though not an option, had always haunted her steps. The team split into two sections, and Jessica found herself at the forefront of her group. Instinctively, she began to take charge, guiding her team with tactical precision that felt unfamiliar and exhilarating.
In that moment, she realized that this was a process of trusting herself, not in validating her worth against others, but in solidifying her identity through action. As they maneuvered through the terrain, each move reinforced her resolve. She calculated their path with an unusual calmness, her intuition sharpening with each passing moment. Yet lurking within her was that gnawing self-doubt, a whisper reminding her of the scrutiny from her peers, the lingering shadows of her past. What if she stumbled? What if the fear of inadequacy held her back? Suddenly, a crisp sound shattered the silence, a branch snapping underfoot. The tension heightened, and Jessica's heart raced. Instinct kicked in as she signaled her team to halt, her previous apprehension transforming into focus. This was no longer merely about making a good impression, it was about survival. "Steady," she murmured to her team, her voice firm and reassuring. They glanced at her, their expressions a mix of anticipation and anxiety. She realized that they were looking to her for guidance. The weight of leadership settled down on her, both daunting and empowering. When the moment passed without incident, Jessica knew she had crossed a threshold within herself. The recognition in her team's eyes deepened her conviction, allowing her to assert herself even more. As they continued their mission, with each decision she made and the respect she earned in return, Jessica began to uncover hidden competencies, revealing layers of her resilience she hadn't known existed. The darkness no longer felt suffocating, it became a canvas for her growth.
Yet as they approached the final station to gather intel, the quiet was pierced by sudden radio chatter from command, an urgent report that a hostile presence was detected in their vicinity. The revelation struck like a blunt force, and a wave of panic washed over her team. Jessica needed to act swiftly. "Stay calm. We prepare for whatever comes next," she urged, her voice cutting through the tension. The moment of truth loomed ahead. Would her newfound leadership hold true when faced with the very real threat of danger? In the depths of that uncertainty, the gravity of her task resonated. This night would not merely define her skills, but illuminate the essence of who she was becoming. As she readied her team for confrontation, inwardly she understood that the true test wouldn't come from external struggles alone. It would be a confrontation with her own fears. Would she lead them through the night and emerge changed, or would she marginalize the progress she had made? The stakes were rising, the mission had evolved, and with it came her next challenge. The time had come to face the darkness both outside and within. The urgency in the air thickened as Jessica focused intently on her surroundings. With her heart racing, she felt the harsh grip of reality tighten around her. The shadows danced unpredictably, mirroring the tumult of her thoughts.
She couldn't afford to succumb to the panic bubbling just beneath the surface. First rule of engagement, stay alert, she reminded her team, her voice steady despite the rapid thudding of her heart. Jessica's mind raced through tactical possibilities, weighing options and strategizing rapid responses. The intensity of leadership began to ignite a fire within her, a realization that she was more than just a participant. She was a key player in their survival. Glancing back at her team, Jessica noticed their eyes, shimmering with uncertainty, yet flickering with trust. It struck her how quickly dynamics could shift. Just weeks ago she felt invisible. Now the weight of expectation rested squarely on her shoulders. Form a perimeter. We'll draw off any potential threats. She felt the surge of authority surge through her, as if carving out a piece of the night just for her. As they moved into position, she welcomed the tactical responsibilities, the calculations needed to navigate the unknown terrain, the quick assessments of angles and obstacles. Deep down, her subconscious wrestled with whispers of self-doubt, but she had trained herself to push through the noise. Could she truly rise to the challenge? Moments ticked by, and enveloped in the darkness, she felt a flicker of something familiar: fear. It had always haunted her decisions, tainted her confidence. But something shifted this time. She recognized it as a signal to act, not retreat. With every instinct honed from months of training, she stifled the fear, forcing it into the background. "Keep your distances and watch your six," she instructed, each word brandishing a newfound weight. They dispersed, quietly moving as shadows, and she clenched her jaw, exhilaration coursing through her veins. They could trust her. In that moment, she believed it completely. Suddenly, the world around her transformed. A rustle, a crunch of debris underfoot. Her pulse quickened as she raised her hand thoughtfully to signal stillness. Every emotion amplified, and as she stood there, expecting trouble, she heard nothing more. She wanted to scream, to break the silence with words of comfort, but that wouldn't serve them now. Then a pang of determination shot through her. This was a test, one she had been waiting for, and it illuminated a deeper, urgent truth. This mission was not just about reconnaissance. It was about conquering the very essence of fear that had shadowed her for so long. "One foot in front of the other, Jessica," she whispered under her breath, the mantra helping steady her edges. As the radio crackled again, this time with clearer instructions, the tension rose palpably around her. "Command wants eyes on the target," it urged. The implications sent a jolt through her. This was the crucial turning point that could define her trajectory. "Then let's move," she commanded, instinctively guiding her team with renewed vigor. Each decision stoked a fire within, her fears flaring into a determination that enveloped her senses. She wasn't just leading, she was embodying strength. But as they maneuvered through the darkness, Jessica felt her breath catch. What if they stumbled into an ambush? The thought sent icy tendrils of dread ricocheting through her mind. The specter of failure loomed larger, demanding attention. "Keep close," she murmured, pushing through the vulnerability. With every step it became clearer. This mission was a chance to reconcile her dual existence, the fierce warrior and the woman riddled with doubt. She traversed the line between fear and resolve, poised between past insecurities and future potential. The deeper they pressed into enemy territory, the more aware she became of the chasm that lay before her. Would she maintain her clarity when faced with the unforgiving edges of danger?
Then, a loud crack echoed through the silence. The air thickened with anticipation. It wasn't fear that gripped her anymore, but a blossoming certainty that she was prepared for whatever awaited. As they closed in on their objective, a voice came over the earpiece, sharper than before. Intruders detected. Suddenly, the veil of night split open, revealing the precarious ledge of truth. Jessica had to confront not only the threat outside, but the one that weighed heavy within. Could she truly follow through and lead them out of this darkness, or would the very foundation of her leadership crack under fire? The answer awaited in the shadows ahead, and with each crisp step, the weight of her own destiny pulled her closer to the precipice. The crackle of the radio pierced the silence like a gunshot, snapping Jessica back into focus. Intruders detected. Her heart constricted. This was no longer a training exercise. The next minutes could determine her team's fate. They had crossed a threshold, and she had to lead them unerringly through the chaos that loomed. "Hold your positions," she commanded, her voice unwavering, as adrenaline coursed through her veins. The sharpness of the order belied her internal tempest. Self-doubt threatened to rear its head. Not now. She reminded herself that fear had once paralyzed her. It needed to serve as a propellant instead. Tactical instincts kicked in. She scanned their surroundings, calculating angles, determining lines of sight. The shadows didn't just hide danger, they housed opportunities. She sensed the need to not only react, but to anticipate the enemy's movements, to create traps rather than fall prey to ambush. A sudden understanding blossomed. This mission was a proving ground. She was forging not only her leadership, but her very identity. "Jason, you're on lookout. Jess and Clara, follow me," she whispered, as she gestured her hands. A silent command, a lifeline threaded through the darkness. Trust had become a currency, and Jessica felt its weight. Trust was her shield, her weapon.
As they advanced, her muscles tensed. The silence pressed down like a physical force. She could almost feel the tension vibrating in the air, as if the world itself were holding its breath. The noise of their footfalls felt like a siren call. Each crunch beneath their boots echoed in her ears, reminding her of the fragility of their mission. The openings were tight, the terrain rugged and treacherous, a reflection of her internal state, a mixture of resolve and vulnerability. How could she expect her team to follow her without falter when she herself remained unsure? That anxiety flared, but was eclipsed by a fierce determination. They needed her to be more than confident. They needed her to be unyielding. Suddenly, she spotted movement in the bushes ahead, a dark silhouette darting past. Instinctively, she motioned her team to halt, her breath hitching. What if it was a scout? Panic bubbled, but she grounded down. If she faltered now, it would ripple through the group. "Reassess and regroup," she murmured under her breath, forcing her voice low yet firm. The words echoed in her mind, a mantra she had cultivated through months of training. There was strength, she realized, not just in issuing orders, but in knowing when to retreat into silence. Observation could craft strategies far more intricate than mere bravado. As they paused, she focused on the faint sounds from ahead, whispers, a rustling that hinted at a gathering. "We're not alone," she breathed, adrenaline surging. It wasn't just a threat. This was a moment of revelation, perhaps even a lifeline. They weren't fighting against shadows anymore, but a tangible scenario she could manipulate. With newfound clarity, Jessica orchestrated a plan. "Clara, create a diversion. Jason, move around to flank. I'll get their attention," she commanded, words slipping from her mind to the air with surprising ease. She had found her rhythm, a dance of leadership that thrummed with potential. Each team member acknowledged her plan, their trust emboldening her. No longer the haunted warrior of the past, she was repositioning herself on her own battlefield. The hiss of excitement in her veins both terrified and exhilarated her, a duality she would have to learn to embrace. But as the outline of the intruder formed, Jessica's heart leapt into her throat. The figure shifted into a shape so familiar it froze her, an old rival, a ghost from her past. But this wasn't just a confrontation with an adversary, it was also an opportunity for reclamation. Could she outwit her rival while proving her worth? The answer was swelling within her, but it waited just beyond sight. "Now," she whispered, her voice a tiny ember flickering in the dark. With no hesitation, Jessica prepared to spring into action. All pieces would align in that moment, and as she took a deep breath, she felt the ground beneath her shift. Triumph or failure awaited, but what lay ahead would not only test her tactical skills, but also redefine her entirely.
The stakes rose higher than ever, and she questioned whether the warrior in her was ready to seize this moment. or if she would collide with her shadows once and for all. The outcome wouldn't just bear weight on their survival, but also with who she would become. Every heartbeat echoed a singular truth. It was time to confront not just the enemy before her, but also the ghosts that riddled her mind. The shadows shifted as Jessica crouched low, a primal instinct guiding her as her rival moved closer. Her heart thundered, but amidst the chaos she grasped a deeper realization. This was about more than survival. It was about redemption, the reclamation of her worth, and the final confrontation with her past. The intruder stepped into the dim light, and recognition sparked like a jolt of electricity through her. Marcus, the embodiment of her former failures, the soldier who had once exposed her vulnerabilities in training. Memories flooded in, lost focus, faltered confidence, and the insidious doubt that had plagued her thoughts even after she had seemingly overcome it. But this time was different. She was no longer the hesitant recruit. She had transformed through both adversity and determination. The stakes heightened further. Not only did she have to outwit Marcus, but demonstrate to herself just how far she had come. The rustling grew louder, a cacophony that echoed the turmoil within her. Jessica drew upon her training, forcing every pulse of pressure and uncertainty into sharp focus. "Clara, divert him now," she whispered, her voice carrying the steely authority that had become her anchor. As Clara moved, Jessica stepped fully into her role, her senses keenly attuned to the horizon. A flash of movement caught her eye as Clara executed her role flawlessly. Marcus turned sharply, eyes scanning for any threat, leaving Jessica with an unguarded opening. She seized this moment, her pulse synchronized with her tactical mind, and charged forward. Time stretched and contracted in those critical seconds. The uneasy curiosity underlying Marcus's stance almost amused her. Did he think he could intimidate her like in the past? Enveloped in a newfound resolve, Jessica shifted seamlessly, feinting to the left, then lunging right, executing an armored tackle that knocked him off balance. As Marcus stumbled, the adrenaline surged, igniting a spark long buried. The adrenaline brushed away her deepest insecurities, revealing an empowered clarity. Here was not merely a rival, but a reflection of her own unyielding will. "This is my moment," she firmly whispered to herself in the fray. But unanticipated reluctance crept in. A pang of doubt momentarily shadowed her triumph. What if she couldn't fully overcome him? It did not escape her that while she fought, she was also wrestling with the intimidating notion of fully claiming her identity. She had endured much already, but would claiming victory mean embracing her complexities rather than hiding behind them?
Caught up in the whirl of combat, she felt the pressure of her decisions. Should she strike hard and prove her dominance, or was there a subtlety in steering this confrontation towards resolution? Here was a choice, a moral dilemma that spoke volumes about her evolving leadership. Jessica regained her footing and applied restraint, standing over Marcus as he lay on the ground. Instead of delivering the final blow, she braced herself on her knees, trapping his arm. This was no longer a fight for supremacy. It was an act of reclamation, acknowledging the past while carving a future. "Why?" she demanded, the intensity in her voice cutting through the chaos. "Why did you come here?" His face was a mask of defiance, but for a brief moment the flicker of vulnerability escaped. They locked eyes, and in that shared glance, a profound understanding unfolded. This hesitation reflected a shared history, expectations and disappointments sewn into the fabric of their being. "Maybe I wanted to see if you'd truly changed," he murmured, a begrudging respect interspersed with disbelief coloring his tone. Jessica dipped into the depths of our training, realizing that controlling this narrative meant engaging with both the emotion of the moment and the strategic moves that would follow. "You underestimated me, Marcus, as I underestimated myself." A nuanced realization settled within her. Leadership was not merely about asserting force, but about guiding outcomes, even those entangled with conflict. In that fleeting moment, she recognized the potential for alignment rather than discord. Could this one encounter redefine not just her relationship with Marcus, but with herself? The thought crystallized like a striking truth. This tattoo of struggle and rise would serve as her emblem of resilience going forward. Yet, as she deliberated how to resolve this standoff, an unsettling truth loomed on the horizon. The battle was far from over.
"We still have work to do," she declared, urgency threading through her voice as she maintained her grip on Marcus. "There's more to our stories than this moment." With the memories of their painful shared past heavy in the air, she readied herself for the next phase, both internally and externally. As the tide of confrontation shifted, she sensed that her journey towards self-discovery and professional mastery was only beginning. What first seemed like an adversarial encounter was evolving into something profoundly transformative. Would this newfound understanding evolve into a collaboration, or would their shared history pull them into another cycle of rivalry? "Let's find out," she murmured, preparing for whatever came next. A tense silence stretched between them as Jessica knelt over Marcus, her grip firm but contemplative. The chaos of their confrontation began to dissipate, replaced by a piercing awareness that enveloped them both.
She released the audible tension in her chest as she shifted, the weight of defeat settling upon Marcus in a way she hadn't anticipated. "Tell me why," she pressed again, emboldened by the unexpected vulnerability flickering in his expression. "What do you want, Marcus? Where does this leave us?" The vulnerability was a double-edged sword. It offered understanding, yet opened the door to further challenges. Marcus inhaled deeply, and for a heartbeat, it felt as if they shared a single pulse. "Maybe I came to see if you were as good as you think," he admitted, his voice low and contemplative. "Or perhaps to prove to myself I was right to doubt you." Her resolve hardened at the mention of his disbelief, but she chose to navigate this moment differently. This was not merely about proving a point, it was about crafting a future. "You can't judge my worth based on old battles," she countered, surprised by the calm in her voice. "All things considered, I think I underestimated your resolve," Marcus conceded, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully as he sized her up anew. "What now, Jessica? Are we going to fight again or talk this through?" The confrontation had forced her to peel back layers of her own identity, reflecting on the triumphs and failures that had shaped her. Each scar, physical or emotional, echoed untold stories, weaving a complex narrative of strength and vulnerability. It was evident that she had gravitated toward a new path, one defined not by aggression or dominance, but by an understanding and collaboration. The realization struck her. This was no longer an unfurling battle. It was a moment of reckoning. "Let's find common ground," she directed, her voice steady with newfound authority. "You may see me as your rival, but I am not here to compete. I want to blend our strengths." Marcus straightened beneath her, a mix of skepticism and intrigue flickering in his gaze. "Blend strengths, huh? You think we can redefine the narrative?" "Absolutely," she asserted, the conviction radiating from her. "I won't let my past dictate my future, not anymore, and not for you either. We need to make this choice together." A hesitant smile broke Marcus's facade. "All right then," he said, testing the words like a kid learning to ride a bike. There was uncertainty, yes, but also the thrill of possibility. The skepticism that had cradled their past encounters seemed to tug once more at his resolve, yet an ember of curiosity sparked at the prospect of a fresh start. Jessica released her hold on his arm and stood up, extending a hand to him. "Let's rewrite this story together. We both have a stake in it." For a moment, the shadows played across his features as he stared at her outstretched hand, contemplating the offer. It was no simple partnership. It was an opportunity to reclaim their narratives, a daring risk that could pave the way to something greater than either had envisioned.
With a hesitant nod, Marcus took her hand, the gesture more than a mere shake. It was a bond formed in the crucible of conflict, solidifying their resolve to reshape their destinies. As they turned to face the path ahead, the landscape brimming with potential laid before them like a blank canvas. Yet doubts tangled at the edges of her mind. Would this cooperative spirit endure once the true tests emerged? Could they trust each other enough to cut through the complexities of their shared history? Feeling the weight of these questions settle within, Jessica resolved that this was merely the beginning. They were stepping into a new chapter, with uncertainties looming larger in the background. Larger battles awaited them, battles not only with external threats, but with the remnants of their past insecurities as well. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together," she declared, a mantra rising from some primal place within her. And as they traversed forward into the unknown, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenge, one that would force them both to confront their innermost fears, was lurking just beyond the horizon. The horizon loomed heavy. Who would emerge stronger, and more importantly, who would be left standing once everything was said and done? As Jessica and Marcus moved forward, each step felt like a leap into uncharted territory. The air crackled with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty, signaling both promise and peril. She could sense the shift in their dynamic, a fragile alliance forged from confrontation, yet lined with the potential of mutual growth. It was this thin thread of camaraderie that pulled Jessica into deeper reflection. Determined to redefine not just their partnership, but also how they both viewed themselves, she began to visualize what the future might look like. Leaving the ghosts of their past behind would require not only resolve, but a willingness to unpack their personal battles, fears she hadn't consciously addressed until now. As they approached a narrow path surrounded by dense foliage, Jessica's mind drifted to the little victories she'd accrued throughout her journey. It was easy to celebrate triumphs with external validation, but the inner triumphs, the recognition of her resilience, the acknowledgement of her capabilities, were more challenging to appreciate. She thought of the ridicule she had faced earlier in her career, the dismissive attitudes of those who saw her as mere ambition without substance. That had shifted with each new achievement, yet she often found herself grappling with a lingering self-doubt. "Hey, Jess," Marcus broke her reverie, pulling her back into the moment. "What are you thinking about?" Her heart raced at the sudden vulnerability in his voice. Here was a chance to foster openness, an opportunity to reveal parts of herself she usually kept guarded.
"I'm just reflecting on how easy it would be to let our past define what we can achieve together," she confessed, letting the words flow. "The ridicule, the failures, fragments of my past that almost made me give up. But these moments also gave me strength." Marcus regarded her with a newfound respect, nodding slowly. "I get that. I've faced my own battles, ones that have threatened to undermine my confidence." There was a pause, a weight in the silence that followed. "Maybe that's why I was so drawn to challenge you. I thought if I could break what I saw as an arrogant upstart, I could prove something to myself." The admission startled her, striking a chord deep within. They were no longer competitors. They were allies grappling with shared vulnerabilities. "How do you plan to deal with that?" she inquired, curious about his approach to personal growth. He hesitated, the question igniting a flicker of introspection in his eyes. "I think I need to confront those demons," Marcus admitted. "Face them head on, instead of running from them. I won't keep carrying the weight of expectation, my own or anyone else's." The raw honesty stirred something within Jessica. "Maybe that's the first step we need to take," she suggested, "confronting our fears together." A smile crept across Marcus's face, the kind that carried the promise of collaboration rather than competition. "Together," he agreed, the word rich with determination. Suddenly, the path began to widen, revealing a clearing where a training facility loomed ahead. The sight sparked a pang of anxiety in Jessica. It was here that many past events intertwined, a place laden with pressure and expectations. However, instead of retreating into doubt, she felt a sense of exhilarating challenge surging through her veins. "Are we ready to tackle this next obstacle?" Marcus asked, his voice steady yet laced with anticipation. Jessica squared her shoulders, the air buzzing with anticipation. "Absolutely. Let's take stock of our strengths and plan our approach." As they stepped forward, she felt a surge of purpose like never before. The fear of failure was still there, but it no longer had the same hold on her. Together, they would cultivate their potential, choosing collaboration over conflict. And as they entered the training facility, the real test of their resolve loomed ahead. Every insecurities and insights would bubble to the surface, only this time they would face them together, in the heart of the storm. Would they discover the unseen capabilities within themselves, or would the challenges reveal deeper cracks in their fragile alliance? The intensity of that thought pressed firmly on her mind, urging Jessica forward into the unknown. As Jessica stepped into the clearing, the vibrant lights of the training facility illuminated the faces of the SEAL team members, their expectations hanging thick in the air.
The moment had arrived. This was where her journey would culminate, where past and future collided in a single defining instant. No longer would she remain shackled to her father's legacy or the skepticism of her peers. "Where do we start?" Marcus asked, now a trusted ally, their paths intertwined in an unexpected way. "We show them who we truly are," Jessica replied, igniting an unshakable fire within her.
She had learned that success wasn't simply about overcoming her struggles. It was about forging ahead and rewriting the narrative for herself and potentially for Marcus too, joining forces to combat perceptions they could shift together. Within the facility, they joined the assembled team, the atmosphere electric with the anticipation of competition. The commanding officer launched into the day's agenda, a series of exercises that would push them to their limits. This wasn't just another day in training, it was an evaluation, an opportunity to demonstrate growth, resilience, and impeccable teamwork. Jessica felt the weight of her tattoo on her forearm. The words resonated as a mantra. No one could define her but her. Every scoff and mocking glance from the past served as fuel now. "Let's focus," she instructed Marcus, the undercurrent of their shared resolve sparking momentum. "We can show them our strengths." Events unfolded seamlessly as the first exercise began. Together, they tackled physical challenges, obstacle courses, navigation drills, and complex maneuvers. Jessica's confidence soared. Her instincts flared, guiding her in ways she hadn't expected, each moment more liberating than the last. She wasn't merely executing tasks, she was redefining her presence in the team. It was during a tactical decision-making exercise that the true test of their partnership emerged. Faced with multiple options, hesitation swept through the team. The atmosphere crackled. Marcus's eyes darted between solutions, uncertainty creeping back. Recognizing the moment, Jessica took charge, commanding clarity amidst the noise. "We go left. The terrain offers cover, and we'll have better sightlines," she stated firmly, drawing on their newfound synergy and trust. The SEALs nodded, and as they acted on Jessica's directive, she felt a wave of validation wash over her. Trusting her instincts had changed the game. She was not just the daughter of a legend or a tattooed anomaly, but a collaborator, a leader with the capacity to rise. Each successful maneuver reinforced her sense of belonging. They became a cohesive unit, delivering results that altered perceptions around them. By the time the exercises concluded, the team gathered for debriefing. The officer's expression shifted from skepticism to genuine intrigue. "Solid execution," the commanding officer affirmed, his regard resting on Jessica and Marcus. "It's impressive how you've combined efforts. Your leadership is showing considerable evolution." Hearing those words felt like a validation of every ounce of effort she had poured into her training. Jessica's heart surged with a mix of pride and disbelief. She had demonstrated not just her capabilities, but the remarkable transformation that had taken place over these arduous months. Marcus exchanged a knowing glance with her. They had indeed redefined their relationship, and standing here, it felt liberating. "We're only getting started," Jessica mumbled, internalizing the appreciation, while recognizing that this was just the first of many victories. But the true crescendo arose when the officer announced a surprise concluding exercise, a night mission that required all the skills they'd honed. Anticipation wrapped tightly around Jessica, akin to a runner poised at the starting line. The shadows of doubt now held a different meaning. They signified opportunities instead of threats. As they entered the darkness of the training grounds, hand in hand, Jessica understood she wasn't just embarking on a mission, she was stepping fully into her identity, into all she had learned and achieved. The once unyielding doubts were now whispers at the edge of her mind, eclipsed by profound clarity. More than ever, she realized that this was her moment to conquer, to not only show herself the woman she had become, but to rewrite the stories of both her and Marcus as co-navigators of trials. The night held challenges, but it did not possess the power to dim her light. "Whatever comes, we face it together," she reiterated, locking eyes with Marcus as the darkness enveloped them. And as those words thrummed between them, vibrant with determination and shared purpose, Jessica felt an authentic spark of confidence. She had completed her transformation, not merely from doubt to strength, but into a recognized role within the trajectory of her life, embracing all her complexities and welcoming the endless possibilities of her future. This was who she was meant to be. Now was the time to lead with conviction, and Jessica would embrace every challenge that loomed ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, and don't wait even one more second to share.
Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.